It's now time for us to start looking at planting out the marigolds that we've been growing from seed. So these marigolds are looking really quite healthy, and they are also starting to flower as well. As long as you are past your last frost date, we can pop these out. So they're not going to be worried about the colder nights that some of our other plants are going to be worried about, but we don't want a hard frost on them. So if you have still got quite a few frosts, then you might want to just pop them on to make sure they continue growing. Or you could offer them something like a seaweed feed if they're looking like they're struggling a little. If you haven't actually sown any yet, then there's still plenty of time to either sow them directly to where you want them to grow, or to still sow them in pots, and they'll catch up pretty quickly. So these have been grown in the polytunnel, therefore I don't actually need to harden them off because they're going to be continuing to grow in here. If, however, you've been growing them in the house and you're bringing them into an undercover space, or you are moving them from an undercover space to the outside in the garden, then you will want to harden them off. If they've been in the house, then I would give them the maximum time of 7 days, where you're going to move them from into a shaded area and then expose them to more light and wind and rain, things like that, as the time goes on, and move them back in if it gets really cold within that period. And then in the end, we're going to leave them out overnight. If, however, they've been grown undercover, then you can really shorten this down to around 3 days, because they've already been exposed to a lot of those extremes already. So we're just going to squeeze the pot gently to help lift them out. Hopefully their root ball will stay together and come out as one rather than fall apart. You might want to use something like a peg or a fork if they are struggling. So as you can see, this one already has its first flower on. So all we want to do with the first flower is pinch them out. This is going to encourage the plant to put on more bushiness and therefore more flowers. So it's been really hot at the moment, so it is the evening currently, which is just going to help these not go into too much shock with the heat suddenly. These beds have been fed and they've been watered, and then I'll give them a bit more water again in a second. And then all we're going to do is, up to the same height they're currently in, is just pop them into the bed and push the soil back round. If you've got African marigolds rather than French marigolds, don't forget that they can be considerably taller, so do think about where they're going to go and whether they're going to shade other plants or not. I'm just popping these in front of the peppers in this particular bed. So I've given these marigolds a really good water, and I don't plan on feeding them throughout the year. It's not something that I usually do because the bed is actually fed. If, however, you do feed the plants rather than the beds, then just feed them exactly the same as you do your other flowering plants. So with like something like a comfrey feed or a tomato feed and things like that. And then the next time that we actually plan to look at these is going to be when they are ready to start saving seeds from them, and it should be something that we can easily save seeds from and then not have to buy any more seeds for these particular variety. If, however, you do have any questions in the meantime, then do please let me know.